So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar, The Evolution of Hydroponic Farming. My name is Vibha Bhatt and I work with the Agrovision Foundation team, and I'm excited to be hosting this session today. So this informative webinar is organized by Agrovision Foundation and Agro Spectrum. So as we all know that sustainable farming solution in countries with arid climates such as India have caused an increase in interest in hydroponic farms that practice plants with. Vivek, can you put other speakers on mute? There is a lot of background noise that's coming. Thank you. So I was saying the farms that practice growing plants without soil in a nutrient-rich water solution. So hydroponic farming is economically feasible and has ability to serve as a possible solution to India's dwindling availability of fertile soil or the clean and surplus water. Not only that, this practice of agriculture resolves many of the issues that challenge year-round growing, like combined with the droughts and unpredictable weather, rising temperatures, polluted water systems, lack of irrigation, poor water management, and high freight cost from India. As we all know that historians believe that the evolution of hydroponics started with the nation Babylonians and their hanging gardens. It was John Woodward in 1699 who became the first documented scientist to successfully grow plants using hydroponics. And today, pioneers in India propose hydroponics as a solution that can change the way horticulture is done. So therefore, to discuss more about this important topic, this informative webinar has been designed. So before we get started, just a little announcement. E-certificates are available for this program. So you all are requested to contact Agrovision Secretariat for the same. I will be posting, the email ID from where you can, get the contact. So please attend the complete session in order to get qualified for the e-certificate. And if you have any question during the session, please type them into your question box in your WebEx control panel. We will be answering questions at the end of the session. And if you don't get to your question during today's webinar, then we'll be sure enough to follow up afterwards. Now, I would like to kick things off by welcoming our Agrovision team. We have with us Dr. C.D. Mai. He is Chairman, Agrovision Advisory Committee. Mr. Ravi Boratkar, who is President, Agrovision Foundation and Publisher, Agro Spectrum and New Food Spectrum. And we have most competent speakers for the webinar today. So without further delaying this, I would like to welcome our distinguished speakers. So we have with us today Dr. Anand Kumar Singh. He is a Deputy Director General, Horticulture Science Division of Horticulture, ICAR. Mr. Priyanshu Jain, he is a co-founder and director of Agri Joy LLP and also President of Hydroponic Society of India. Mr. Sundeep Bhatia is a founding director of VAS Agri Private Limited. Dr. Shama Zaidi, she is a senior manager R&D Aries Agro Limited. Mr. Jasmeet Kandhari is a co-founder of Phony Green Private Limited, and Ms. Anisha Goel, she is founder of Kaze Living. So I welcome you all. Now I would like to request Dr. C.D. Mai for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Vibha. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. First of all, let me welcome my friend, Dr. A.K. Singh, who has spare time to be with us. I am very happy that he is DDG Horticulture and a very competent team that we have. Friends, with horticulture production touching something like new high and surpassing even the food production, new trends are emerging in promoting alternate horticulture with also alternate agriculture systems for quality production, and that's under precision cultivation. Now, protected cultivations like greenhouses, net houses, insect fruit houses, zero energy ventilated greenhouses, walk-in tunnels, they have all become norms of the protected cultivation. In this series of high-tech agriculture, hydroponics, aeroponics, aquaponics, vertical farming, they have emerged as very good alternatives now. Hydroponics have proved to be very highly productive because it is a conservation of water, land and environment. It is also getting popular in India, but the space with which it is going, I think China is almost with 80% of the world's total indoor cultivation. So India is now making them, and I am sure there are certain challenges and some of the challenges which I think Dr. Singh will be able to tell you better, like high initial cost is of the infrastructure is one, the skill required for hydroponics also is another. Sometimes it is a hot weather, 45, 46 degrees temperature is also a problem. And also we have not varieties suitable for really hydroponics. Now people are even talking about aquaponics, where we can use aquaculture as well as hydroponics, where we can have vegetable cultivation and also fish culture. So all kinds of now new techniques of precision agriculture or precision cultivation are coming. And I'm happy that Agrovision Foundation has taken hydroponics as one of our topics. And I'm sure this seminar with very competent people and that too from a diversified field is going to really lead this webinar. And I'm anxious to listen to all of them. Thank you. Welcome once again from Agrovision Foundation. Vibha, kindly continue.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I'll open the floor with Dr. Anand Kumar Singh. Sir, let us first understand from you what is hydroponic farming and how is ICAR promoting this new farming system in the country and its potential. Dr. Singh?
You have to unmute him.
Thank you, Vibha.
Yes, sir.
And good afternoon to all of you. And I feel this is a privilege to me, and this is my esteemed honor that I am taking part in a deliberation where Dr. Mai is here, who is my guru. I am not his colleague, I am his student. There is a small correction here, and for me, this is a big correction. And we take pride when we say that we are students of Dr. Mai. So thank you so much, sir, for giving me a chance to speak here on this particular occasion. And I'm really happy that I'm getting connected to a topic with all of you where the people, the representatives are from the various spheres, but they have the common interest of the hydroponics and technology. Hydroponics is basically the cultivation of plants in a manner where the plants can express its potential, the genetic potential, either for the quality or for the yield or for the flavor, for each and every attribute for this is traded or processed. And the each and every plant that needs the nutrients, and these nutrients here in hydroponic system is supplied in liquid format actually. And when you grow the plant in field conditions also, there also, it is mandatory that along with the fertilizers or any nutrients, the water has to be added because each and every nutrient necessarily has to be dissolved in water because uptake happens only when this is in a liquid format. So these natural conditions we have harnessed, we have realized the potential of this one in the containment conditions and grow the plants so that you can have a control on the entire management process, be it temperature, light, and nutrients, water, and application of other chemicals. Chemicals, today we are talking of the contaminants, toxins, residues, dyes, and so many other things, which creates a problem for the local people also. And also when we aim for the global destinations, the MRL issue comes in. So when you grow your plant under containment situation like hydroponics, then you avoid application of these excessive chemicals. The quality that you get is very high. The production of tomato, our experience is 50 kilogram tomato per square meter area. So I mean, you can harness the genetic potential, you can produce the commodity at your will, you can produce the commodity in areas where cultivation of certain crops is not possible because of the hostile conditions. We have 142 million tons and 142 million hectare area in the cultivation, but entire horticulture is only 26 million hectare area. So I feel that for horticultural commodities or high value crop commodities, the hydroponic system is going to be a panacea.
Great, sir. Thank you for beautifully explaining the entire process. So I'll now come back to I'll just ask Mr. Priyanshu Jain, who is the president of Hydroponic Society of India. So as you heard about the process from Dr. Anand Kumar Singh, now we'd like to know what is the current status of hydroponics in India?
To me,
From Mr. Priyanshu Jain, sir.
Please. Yeah.
Mr. Jain?
So, first of all, thank you for inviting me and telling about the current situation and current scenario. And sensitive industry, it seems to be a lucrative industry. People are really taking part in this industry and they are excited about it. But the thing which I feel here, being running a society and sharing knowledge here and there about the industry. So what I feel is there is still a lack of knowledge among people about hydroponics. Thing is, the vendors, even the companies who are having their setups, who try to build the setups of people for the people, they don't know their customers, where are they, and they don't know their target audience, and the target audience don't know where to go exactly to the companies. And there are several companies who are charging exorbitantly for setting up farms and all. And otherwise, because there's a huge cost difference. The actual cost which is there is relatively low as compared to what people are projecting in the industry. Secondly, since there is a lack of industry, and yes, India is, we have to understand this before venturing into hydroponics, is India is not naturally a salad eating country, and hydroponics people can easily grow leaf greens and all and salads. So there have to be market networks. There have to be market channels ready before people try to venture into hydroponics before they want to set up their own farms. So there is a lack of market side also, and but it's developing, I must say, and so that's where Indian hydroponic comes in. We try to we have 9,000, 10,000 people connected with us from all across from each and every stakeholders is connected with us, whether they are maybe companies, vendors, hobbyists, enthusiasts, market people. So we are trying to bridge that gap, and but I still feel that there is a huge gap here. Secondly, about the growth and opportunities is, see, the thing is, hydroponics is still, when you pitch this idea, the idea of hydroponics to a farmer, it still incur a huge capital investments. It asks for huge capital investments from a farmer's perspective. So it's not been that much common, and it's not that much relevant as compared to the farmer's perspective, because he may not be able to put in so much amount of money to set up a hydroponic farm. So yes, people are taking interest, those who have their capital reserves, and here the government also comes in. 50%, 60% of the subsidy is allotted to the polyhouse for polyhouse building. And I recently heard the NHB has 20-30% subsidies for 1,000 square meters farm. So that's very good. That's a nice initiative by the government as well. And this startup Uttarakhand also, the Uttarakhand government, they have started building the hydroponics environment around their state. So people are taking interests, and definitely it's a very huge industry, and it holds a lot of potential, but it has challenges as of now.
Okay, thank you. So, like you were talking about the capital, a lot of capital and investment is required to set up this, hydroponic farm. So, how much capital do you think, like a normal person, if he wants to get into this, how much capital is required for that?
Okay, so talking about the numbers here is, if anyone wants to have a commercially viable hydroponic farm, let's say, so the minimum land area should be around 5,000 square feet, and the investment can be around anywhere around 16 lakhs to probably 20 to 28 lakhs. And if the person is doing it completely DIY, do it yourself, and so still they will have the cost around 15 to 16 lakhs. So, and any vendor, any company is charging anywhere around 20 to 30 lakhs common. And one more thing I wanted to share with the audience here is, the most important thing is, there is a lot of YouTube gyan available in this industry. But it's not that accurate. I have seen a lot of information here and there that where people are growing hydroponics plants in PVC pipes. So that's very wrong. People should understand that the sewage pipe, we don't use it even for drinking. How can we grow plants in that? So we have to we should expect some regulations, also some strict regulations from the government industries as well to check this thing, because it's being hugely popularized, this idea of growing plants into PVC, because it's relevantly low cost. So it's not like that. People should use HDPE pipes or micro PVC pipes to reduce these things, because PVC will hold toxins and it will release toxins which can ultimately affect the health of people.
Yeah, so like you're saying, a lot of incorrect information is available on like YouTube and other channels. So what initiatives is your organization taking in order to educate people who want to get into it? So are you organizing any workshops, trainings for them, like entrepreneurs who want to, who would want to get into this?
Yeah, so we regularly conduct few workshops, and we are happy that we are receiving feedbacks. Also, we see, since we are not in a we don't have any intention to earn something from the Indian hydroponics portal. We have a separate startup for that, and so that's why we have a free knowledge sharing platform and services. We try to build several podcasts. We have various podcasts, and we are happy to share that our podcast on hydroponics is being in around 64 plus countries. Is being heard in 64 plus countries. It's being hugely popularized, and our team is also creating some ebooks on the nutrition part as well, on the various techniques of hydroponics, DIY hydroponics. We have several communities built up in and around the social media platforms, probably Instagram and WhatsApp communities. A lot of discussions on a daily basis are happening in these types of communities. So it's good to see that, yes, finally people are taking interest in that, and yes, they are accepting the knowledge.
Thank you very much. Dr. Singh, I'll just come back to you once again. Like you heard Mr. Jan say, that a lot of investment is required if somebody wants to get into this. So do you think this can be an option for regular farming, or will this be limited to urban and semi-urban farming community only?
This could be anywhere, but this is more pertinent with the urbanization, because the urbanization is rising. Maybe by the time of 2050, the entire world, 50% of the population will be living in the city areas. Even in India also, by the turn of 2050, 62% population will be living in the city areas. And if you have to serve these people with a high volume nutritious food material in terms of the vegetables, and connect the production centers with the consumption centers, you have to consider the food miles. A kilogram of fruits or vegetables or any commodity for that purpose, if it is freighted from a 50 kilometer, how much food miles this leaves? This is enormous. I mean, just imagine that only the Indo-Gangetic Plains produces almost 70-80% of the potato of 52 million tons. Just imagine how much potato is transported from the northern India to the Kerala. A truckload of potato, for example, which carries something like 10 to 12 tons, and it travels 8 to 9 days from Delhi, from eastern UP or central UP to the Kerala, the Trivandrum. Just imagine how much diesel is burned, how much food miles it leaves. Therefore, this is important that it should be on a priority basis in the peri-urban areas. However, a great amount of care has to be exercised that the water supply in these areas is clean. It's not the water which is the drainage water is going to be used. For example, in Delhi urban areas, we have found out, there was a study conducted here a couple of years back. Then we found that the water which is being used for the cultivation of these very urban farming of the vegetables, they have the aluminum, they have cadmium, heavy metals, whatnot. And this is coming into the food chain. And therefore, there is the need of putting up this chapter as a full-length chapter in the educational programs, social programs, so that this comes up in the areas. In fact, we have tried with our best efforts to have a connection and convince the urban planning, so that in the future, when the urban planning smart cities are coming up, there should be some provision of the hydroponics, so that the vegetables for the local supplies should be produced in the peripheries or in the center of the cities, so that the food mile can be reduced. The unnecessary expenditure, I know, as I forgot his name, gentleman says that this is knowledge intensive, this is capital intensive, this is technology intensive. On the top of everything else, this reveals the high risk of the market. Therefore, once you converge in a very professional manner in the urban areas, it has much more relevance in the urban areas than in the rural areas or little away from the on the rural areas or smaller cities areas. One more minute here. When I was heading National Horticulture Board as managing director, then when I tried to incorporate the subsidy system of 35% or 50% of this particular technology, I was mocked that I was going to provide subsidy for production structures like hydroponics and aeroponics. Today we are talking on this one. So I think this has much more relevance in city areas where the growth is going to bulge, demand is much higher, average buying capacity is much higher. Those people who are much more educated as compared to rural areas, and they know the power of the nutrients and power of vegetables and other sources, herbs or other things, that the cultivation of these things has to be promoted in a manner which is managed by the highly professional people. Those who know the subject, those who know the market, those who can take the entire the system of the government, the provisions. I can mention here that several ordinances are there that can be leveraged along with the subsidy system available either with the states or with the central government to take this one, the cultivation of vegetables or other related crops which can be grown in these containment conditions to the next level.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Zaidi, since you heard Mr. Priyanshu Jain, you heard Dr. Anand Kumar Singh also, they have been emphasizing more on nutrients, you know. So, since you deal in that, so I would like to know, this hydroponics plants are grown in water, and it is absolutely necessary that proper nutrients are added for the healthy growth of the plants. So what kind of nutrients are essential and how it has to be monitored so that crops stay healthy? So please share your suggestions to the hydroponic farmers or the entrepreneurs who want to get into this.
Okay. Very good afternoon to everybody who's here today. And as we know that hydroponics is a technique, it's an alternate technique. So that does not mean that the plant requirements change. Okay, so there is a lot of misconception that if you're doing in hydroponics, so nutrients, yes, you do need water soluble nutrients, good quality water soluble nutrients, but that in no way means that the plant requirements has changed. So as in soil growing or as in any kind of a traditional farming, the the plant needs nutrients to grow, you know, the major and minor nutrients that it needs to grow in soil growing. It requires the same kind of nutrients to grow in hydroponic farming as well. So that plant requirement has not changed. It needs all its NPK, such as your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, along with the proper mix of micronutrients like boron, manganese, molybdenum, zinc, ferrous, copper, etc., etc. So these nutrients are required by the plant to grow, which are known as essential nutrients, which have to be water soluble. Again, in this, Dr. Singh has pointed out that water quality is of utmost importance. So here again, when whoever does hydroponic farming has to ensure that they start with water quality which has got no dissolved or prior dissolved salts, so that whatever nutrient addition that they are doing comes from what they are adding. So that is how you keep a check on the nutrients that you're supplying to the plants to grow. Another very important thing that I want to point out here is a lot of people are selling hydroponic nutrients, and you cannot have one size fits all kind of a thing in hydroponics. Okay, you cannot have one nutrient taking care of all plants and all stages of plant growth. So which is a regular misconception, which is how people feel hydroponic farming is easy. It's not that. You have to have crop specific and stage specific nutrients for a good quality output. So as you grow up, you know, your infant needs are different, your adolescent needs are different, and when you grow ahead, your needs are different, your nutritional needs are different. Similarly, as the plant grows from one stage to the other, like how it transforms from the vegetative stage to the flowering stage to the fruiting stage, the nutritional needs will differ. Okay, so that is how you have to ensure that you are supplying the plant as per what it needs and in the amount that it needs. This is one of the plus points of hydroponic farming. You can actually design or customize an entire solution for your growth, and that is how you will ensure that you end up with good quality output. Also, another thing to note out here is, since you are not using soil, so you do not have the kind of wastage that happens in soil due to fixing or, you know, leaching or all these properties that are all these processes that happen with soil growing, because here there is nothing else that the nutrients actually react with. So they are fully and completely available to the root for absorption. plus you're giving them in the form that the roots can take it up in. So this is how it really ensures that whatever nutrients that you are adding in your system is as per the plant need, and that is how the quality is ensured. Only thing that you have to keep in mind is you have to go with water soluble 100% completely water soluble nutrients, so that you do not have any residues that are left behind. Another very important thing is you can monitor this by actually measuring the EC and the pH. All these are parameters that you actually do it in soil as well. But in hydroponics, you have the ability to monitor them and change them immediately as and when required, because there is no other reactions as it happens in the soil growing. So that is how nutrition plays a very important role. But most important thing to remember is plant needs do not change whether you are growing them in soil or whether you are growing them in hydroponics. So you have to give them the entire range of nutrients, essential nutrients as they are called, that you give them in soil, right from your NPKs to calcium, magnesium, sulfur, to the entire basket of micronutrients, which will aid the work or help the major nutrients to play their role. So that does not change with hydroponic growing, and that is why nutrients play a very, very, very important role when you consider hydroponic as a technique to grow your crops.
Thank you. I think you can have 100% control of the nutrients that plants need in
Yes.
this method. And before planting, growers can actually check what are the plant's requirements and what amount of nutrients needed at
Exactly.
particular stages and what percentage it should be mixed with water, like you said. So thank you very much. Now I'll come to Mr. Kandhari. Mr. Kandhari, we've been talking about nutrition, we've been talking about technology. So from you, I would like to know about the technology. Are there kind of technologies available? Vivek, can you please mute others? There is a lot of background noise. So, Mr. Kandhari, are there different kinds of technologies available in hydroponics and which are more suitable for our environment?
Yes, absolutely. See, in method, hydroponic has quite a different method. You can go for NFT, you can go for bucket system, you can go for floating rafts. You can also do vertical. So depending on how you want to utilize your space and grow in which climate you are in, the systems we choose as per the location, the climate, and the type of structure you're building around the system. Say if you're doing NFT, NFT is it's in pipes or tubes which are food material, but if you're doing it in a hot climate, the pipes tend to get hot and the water does get a little hot, so that becomes your roots do get damaged because of access heat to the water, or you have to cool the water, down with a chiller or different methods of cooling down water. So that's one way of doing it. So while deciding a system in a particular location or for a certain climate, we have to study क्या temperature climate है, उस जमीन जगह का, what is the water quality, what are the parameters of, and how are you going to control all these things. Then we come and sit which system or which technique best is suited for that particular climate. So it's climate focused. It is also crop focused. You can't do tomatoes in NFT, so you can only do tomatoes in buckets. So you have to categorize which system to choose, which crop to grow, and which climate you're growing it in. So then you get then only you will get a proper harvest. Or India is a very hot climate country. So if you're growing lettuce and all, the lettuce is basically it's a cold climate crop. So, and you can't grow it throughout the year. Greenhouse. 35-40 degrees outside, you're only able to maintain an inside degree temperature of minus less degrees or 5 degrees. You can't go below that. So it's very important while choosing a method or while choosing a system, you apply the right method to that particular location. Or that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that
So,
answers your question.
yes, it does. Yes. So I also want to know, this is there a different requirement of technology at a small farm and the large farm, or the same technology that can be implemented?
Yeah, if you're doing small farming, if you're doing rooftop farming, then the techniques are the same, the technology is the same. But in a
Yeah.
larger scale, we just add on these, other components to cool the water, or to even, the poly house, the closed environment. So that can be done on a commercial scale. It has to be done on a commercial scale. But if you're doing it for a rooftop, or if you're doing it for a domestic purpose, then you
Mm.
can leave it in the open, but can only grow those, crops which are suitable for the climate, or seasonal crops. You can't do off-seasonal crops. In a closed environment, yes, you can extend the cycle of the crop. Suppose you can do 2 cycles extra or 3 cycles extra for lettuce, greens, or herbs. But that's about it. But once you reach the peak summer, then you have to shut the whole thing down. So that's the challenge. So
Yeah.
trying it out because it's a new technology. People want to know how it's happening, how it works. And then get a success in that, then they expand it to their farm, or to their, per se, as a business model. So
Mm.
that's what we've taken clients who have converted a small rooftop to a proper farm
Right.
in some areas in India.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Bhatia, I'll come to you now. So, as we all know, the India has rich climatic condition, positioning it favorably for market hydroponic produce. We have an abundant growth market already exists due to India's large population. So, I just want to know that currently the hydroponic producers, are they growing as per the demands of the market, or they are growing and then looking for the market? If it is latter, what needs to be done so that they grow as per the demands of the market and produce gets the better price?
Good afternoon, everybody. See, first of all, I agree with Dr. Singh
Mm.
that hydroponics is a new way of life. It has to be integral part of the life in future. Without hydroponics farming, I don't see any future, at least for vegetables. But the problem in India is that hydroponics is the most abused word. There are a lot of experts in the market who are Google experts, YouTube experts,
Mm.
which don't know. See, Google and YouTube, you cannot do hydroponics in Google and YouTube. Uh, Secondly, like one of my companies, for example, does a lot of turnkey projects worldwide. We are a joint venture with a Netherlands-based company. We get a lot of queries. I get almost 4 to 5 queries a week. The kind of queries I get, it's very surprising that people are more inclined towards aeroponics, aquaponics, or indoor farming. Hydroponics is just not about indoor farming. It is more beyond that. Hydroponics has to do with quality of vegetables. And when when a client comes to us, we ask them who's the customer. See, unless you know the customer, you cannot grow. If you are setting up a farm, leave alone the hydroponics farm. If you are doing farming and you are dependent only on a mandi, you cannot make money. And especially in hydroponics, which is very capital intensive, unless you know your customer, who's the customer, you have to do a backward integration. First, you have to identify your customer, identify what the customer requires, and then start growing what he wants. Don't grow what you want, or what your partners want, or what the founders or the directors of the companies want. You have to be customer centric. If you are setting up a hydroponics farm and then going to the mandi, you will never succeed. If you are looking for buyers in the open market, you will never succeed. Since Dr. Singh also pointed out that hydroponics, since it is more capital intensive, you have to grow to make money. It has to be commercially viable. So if it has to be commercially viable, you have to grow high and produce the costly ones, the lettuce, the cherry tomatoes, and others. So for that, you have a very selective customer base. And yes, once it gets popularized. For example, I started my hydroponics farm in 2011 with Terry. That time, nobody had heard of hydroponics in India. And I'll give you a small example. I was doing a proof of concept in Sonipat, where I had some visitors with me. There was a 90-year-old gentleman who used to grow rice in Panipat area, and his 3 sons. His 3 sons, one was an army officer, one was a Delhi police IAS officer, and the third one was a Haryana IPS. They all four came to my farm, when they came out, all the IAS, IPS, and the army officers said they can't understand this. The 19-year-old gentleman who was doing rice farming in Panipat said, Sandeep, this is the future of farming. This was way back in 2012-13. So you have to understand, see, when we get queries from a market, the first question which the prospective investor asked me, sir, kharcha kya aega? See, I cannot tell you a cost unless we do a feasibility on a particular land. A greenhouse will definitely differ in quality, in specs, if it's in Bangalore, whether it's in Himachal, whether it's in Haryana. The problem also lies with the equipment suppliers in India. They want to make money. They will sell you a same greenhouse which is in Bangalore with the same specs in Haryana. That's why if you drive down from Delhi to Chandigarh and you see a lot of greenhouses in Karnal belt, most of the greenhouses are lying empty. That's the precise reason. One reason is this, and one reason is the subsidy. The entrepreneur in India, the landlords in India, they first ask you what is the subsidy. See, a project has to be based, it has to be commercially viable without a subsidy. Subsidy, when it comes, it can be a bonus. So two things are important. One, as per me, is the first most important aspect is the customer. You have to grow as per the customer requirements. You can't grow on the whims and fancies. And then once you grow, you can't go and find a customer. You will never find a customer if you are growing in hydroponics produce, and then after the produce is harvested, you will never find a customer. And you will end up selling in the mandi at dirt cheap price, which you can't. The second problem is choosing the right technology. Lot of people see hydroponics has become a very fancy word for the young entrepreneurs. They think that indoor farm hoga to ye hoga, 1,500 square feet mein we can grow equivalent to 5 acres of produce. That is not right. Plus, whether you require an indoor farm or not, that is a different question altogether. So I would say is all the people who are wanting to get into hydroponics is first do the backward integration process. Choose a customer, identify the customer, and choose the right technology. Like all of us know that in hydroponics we have different technologies available. We'll have to see which technology is applicable to you and what level of automation you want to go. Hydroponics is also about automation. I cannot do a European technology here and grow tomatoes. I will never make money. End of the story is that you have to make money.
Absolutely.
If you are an agripreneur, if you are an entrepreneur in agriculture.
Great. So thank you very much, Mr. Bhatia. So you mentioned that lettuce, tomatoes are like some of the salad crops, and strawberries, bell peppers, and herbs are grown in this particular environment. So
Yeah.
I just got a question from one of our participants. Is it possible to improvise, and include cereal pulses and even bigger food crops in hydroponics?
Well, I think that question, I think Dr. Singh is more competent to answer. But what I have seen is, and Israel does a lot of these products in hydroponics, propagation and growing. So hydroponics is a limitless technology. You can see it's all about, as I said, about automation. Automation has no limits. So you can do whatever you want, but depends on at what cost, especially in the Indian environment.
Absolutely. So I'll go back to Dr. Singh maybe after I finish with my other speaker. Miss Anisha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So since this is a new area, many new entrepreneurs want to come into this, and you are a successful agripreneur that you have your own hydroponic farm. So I would like to know your success story. What is your experience in this? And then maybe you can touch upon the other aspects like how organic farming is different from hydroponic, and how your organization is trying to do different in this particular area.
What we actually, taking it off from the last conversation, we actually tried to build a consumer market for this and test the consumer market before backward integrating into farming. So what we are doing is we are working with the hydroponic farms that are currently operational in NCR, sourcing from them, providing them expertise, selling it to the consumer. And what we've realized is, there's no
Vivek, is she audible?
No, she's not.
I guess disconnect.
I think, yeah, I think she got disconnected. So, Dr. Singh, let me come back to you. Like this particular thing that I was asking Mr. Bhatia about the crops that we can include in this, like cereal, pulses, and even bigger fruit crops. So, how do you think is it possible if we do little more, research into this and can make it a profitable thing?
I think, I mean, for the time being, once for a country like ours, we are in tropics. We have subtropical conditions, tropical conditions, and a small amount of the temperate conditions also. There is no need to put crops like paddy and wheat or cereals and pulses into the hydroponic system, because the cost benefit ratio will not be favorable. One, at this point of time. Therefore, my suggestion would be to go for high value crops, and the crops where the problem, as I said, mentioned in the beginning itself, where the application of chemicals, I mean the agrochemicals, particularly pesticides, these things are deployed to control the either insects, harmful insects, or the diseases. So high value crops should be a better option today than the food crops, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Anisha, is that you? Okay,
Am I
we lost your connection in between. Yes, if you could start from the beginning.
So yeah, as I was saying, as far as the consumer side is concerned, we've had extraordinary response from the consumers. Our demand has been growing a lot every month. So the problem we are facing now is, in fact, we don't have enough supply. So there is a chicken and egg problem. For a new farm to set up, they first need to have consumer demand, and then for the consumer demand doesn't pick up because there isn't enough supply. So I think that is something, for hydroponics to work out. The shelf life is extremely low. A lot of these are very delicate greens, so the traditional supply chain method doesn't work. Not only do you not get your money's worth in the mandis, the produce often gets wilted and rotten as well. So it has to be a vertically integrated direct to consumer solution. Which is why, I think in the future, once we start to solve some of these chicken and egg problems, and actually work with people, dignitaries on this platform who have the experience in the farming bit, and integrate that with our platform, so that we can, give, because we have month on month details of exactly which crop, for example, arugula is the most popular, kale is the most popular, and yet in the market, I find that everyone just grows lettuce. So we always have a scarcity of some of these other crops, and we always have an excess of lettuce. So I think matching supply and demand, which will actually help the penetration of hydroponic farming further. Probably not for any whole crops, like any staple crops, but definitely for some of the exotic crops that people are willing to shell out an extra buck for.
Okay. So I have another question for you. Like, where do you see the future of food headed?
See, one thing is undeniable is that we are going to need a lot of hydroponic farming in the future. We are going to have to grow crops vertically because we are running out of fertile soil, right? Having said that, I think in the short term, I don't think we can rely entirely on hydroponic farming because of high capex. Also, a lot of the existing soil can be made more productive using good agricultural practices. But I think with the way the research is going, for example, today it's entirely possible to grow strawberries in the middle of Delhi throughout the year in a vertical farm. and it's possible to grow them if you set up a big scale commercial farm with the right partners who know their research. It's possible to grow it at 200 rupees a kg throughout the year. It's just that no one's doing it. You need the right expertise. You need a decent amount of capex capability, and you need the market. So market we have now, a direct to consumer market, not the traditional supply chain. So I think it's getting there, but I think a lot of pieces have to fall into place for this to work.
Absolutely. So Nisha, we have a lot of questions coming for you, as you can see on your chat window also. So they all want to know from you how they can establish their hydroponic farms, and they want your opinion. So we'll come back to that later. So Priyanshu, I just want to ask you one thing. Like in organic farming, it takes around 3 years to get certification. And if I'm not wrong, in hydroponics, you can get certification. Do you think hydroponic farming is good option to grow organic? Priyanshu?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Did you get my
So
question?
first of all, yeah, I got your question.
Okay.
First of all, the thing is, organic word is related to soil, and one cannot define the hydroponic crops as organic things. They are not certified as organics, and several countries, maybe US, there is a huge debate around it. The matter is in some Supreme Courts as well, to whether to certify hydroponic produce as organic or not. But it's not organic. We can brand use as clean, as pesticide free, as nutritious rich, but we cannot certify it as organic.
Okay.
So we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Singh, what is your take on this? Do you think it will ever be eligible for organic hydroponic certification?
No, certainly not.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now I have like a few questions from the participant that I would like to take. I would like to take. So Mr. Jain, there is one question from you. If not SWR pipes, then what about agricultural pipes?
Yeah, any agro PVC and which is food grade. The food grade pipes can be used for growing commodities in hydroponics, but certainly not PVC pipes.
Okay, thank you very much. And in hydroponic, carbon is required in water?
Sorry?
In hydroponics, is carbon required in water?
There are two types of nutrients which are required by any plant. That is micronutrients and macronutrients, as ma'am said.
Okay.
And macronutrients are these basic NPK, and micronutrients can be calcium and all other things, zinc and all. So there should be a proper diet for the plant because plant requires each and every type of nutrients for various stages. As ma'am said, there is a specific requirement set of nutrients for fruiting stage, for growing stage. So it's like that.
Okay. Mr. Bhatia, you were mentioning about your customers in Netherlands. So I just want to ask, what are their expectations and demands about hydroponic use if you compare it with India?
No, I don't have customers. I have a joint venture with a Netherlands-based company.
Okay, okay.
Where we do, this is a 45-year-old company,
Okay.
and we undertake hydroponics projects, protective cultivation projects throughout the world. So we have been doing projects in various countries. So they are my partners in one of my companies.
Okay. So is there any expectations and demand that you see is different from India?
Yeah, obviously.
Yes.
Plenty.
What is it?
Like 2 years back, we did a project in Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
The level of automation, the level of technology is much different.
Okay.
Which we can't afford actually in India with the cost. It's all related to cost.
Right, absolutely.
Today, the problem is today, if I have to import my NFT system from Europe, turns out to be very costly.
Okay.
I can at the most do it from Israel or in India, but the problem in India is the options are very limited.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Ms. Aniksha, since you are very successfully, you have this very successful company. So what are your tips for the newcomers and those who wish to come into hydroponic farming?
See, as I mentioned, we are not technical people. We are not technically involved in the farming process itself. what I would say is find the right partner on the consumer front so that your ROI is guaranteed. Make sure that you have a demand side which is already sorted before investing in the supply side of it. And of course, more equally important is that you have the right partner that brings in the right expertise, because having a makeshift sort of a poly house, what happens is then in the summer months and in the humid months, there's no supply. There is if you're not able to maintain the temperature and the humidity and use the right nutrients and planting materials, eventually in the peak month when you can actually charge a premium on your products because it cannot be grown in through natural means, you will not be able to grow it, and it's very difficult to then get a decent ROI on such a heavy investment.
Thank you. Dr. Sharma, you mentioned about the proper water soluble nutrients. So I have a question from one of my participants. It says that do you have a set protocol for developing nutrient solution?
What do you mean by a set protocol? Basically, you have to go along with plant requirements and at what stage the plant is in. So we have a reference range of how much of nitrogen or how much of phosphorus, etc., would be required, and based on that, most of our formulations have been done. Like hydroponic nutrient solutions have been done. So if you are like an urban farmer, not living at a very large space, many a times it becomes difficult for you to actually manage your own nutrients, or rather make your own nutrients, like source individual salts and then make a recipe. More or less all commercial growers, those who are growing on a larger setups, like say an acre farm or so, they normally go along with this kind of mixing nutrients, like they have their individual salts and they have their set recipes. So that is how they do it. Small farmers, open setups, rooftop setups, 5,000 square feet or so or lesser, would normally want some companies, like, or rather use ready-made nutrients either in the powder form or in the liquid form. Liquid, let me tell you, gets expensive. At least all the options that are there right now, which are there that you come across on Google or wherever, they are pretty expensive and they really add on to your cost. And that is why your output also, it has a bearing on your output as well, the cost of output, in fact. So like you need a company like ours who can actually customize it for you, or have a subscription based model for giving nutrients for people who are continuously or regularly farming, or an urban farmer. So mixing nutrients at your end actually depends upon how big your setup is and how well you are acquainted with the chemistry and the technicalities of these salts. It is not everybody who can do it, but once you get a hang of it, there is no reason why you cannot do it also. Vipha? Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry. I was on a mute. I couldn't. Yeah, I was on mute. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you very much, Dr. Zaidi. Dr. Singh, did you want? Were you asking something? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Oh, yes. I know one of my friend is there. He is located almost 70 kilometers off from Chennai. And he's running a hydroponic system for the last 4 years. And it's totally on IoT basis.
Mm-hmm.
And once I met him in London, and then I said, once you are here, then who is running your hydroponic system in India? And he says, I'm running myself. If there is any snag, if there is any technical snag in the hydroponic system in Chennai, then I get the alert. Then he has a contact in Chennai city. He calls him that this kind of problem is there in my hydroponic system. He goes and corrects, and then it runs automatically.
Great.
100%. And the temperature is 42 degrees Celsius.
Right. It's all about automation and technology that we use nowadays. So if I have your permission, I have around 35 questions from my participants. So if you all are okay, can I ask questions?
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have this question from Mr. Vittal Kothale. He says that, is it possible to grow hydroponic crops under semi-controlled conditions in Maharashtra?
Well, to me or to whom?
Yes, you can answer this, sir.
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
But you'll have to be very selective in terms of the crops that you're going to choose or the variety.
Okay.
And of course, to run on a sustainable business model, you have to have the, I don't know who said, Shama or somebody says the backward calculation is much more crucial here.
Anisha.
Yeah, somebody said, the backward
Yes.
calculation in terms of
Mr. Sandeep had said that.
is crucial.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, the questions is open to, like, they are open to all. So whosoever wants to answer, they can answer. So my next question is from Mr. Bhartendu. He says, can we do hydroponics NFT as 100% organic? If yes, how to fulfill the nutrient requirements organically? Shama, would you like to answer?
This is one question that we normally come up with, and with a lot of people asking they want to do organic. I, frankly speaking, personally, we run a rooftop farm. Around 5,000 square feet, working backward and doing our nutrient testing since I am heading the R&D division of this company. So we are doing all this. I have personally not been able to use any kind of organic per se nutrients in an NFT because it's a totally different environment actually, and organic, when you use the term organic, you have a lot of microorganisms involved who actually work around along with the soil components, and then you have this entire concept of organic. Either you do organic or you do hydroponic. You choose. You don't try to blend in, or you can have some kind of, see, if you want to do a little bit of organic, you may blend something like a seaweed extract or something which is like a foliar spray, which is like a growth promotant for your plants, or a humic acid spray in foliar. But not something that you can give through pipes, because you have a lot of problems of decompositions or your organic nutrients getting infected with microorgan. I have personally not done any organic nutrients in NFT. I don't know about anybody else who has tried this.
Okay. Anybody? Okay. So there is a question from Mr. Praveen Prasad. He says, what kind of vegetables can be grown around here in urban farming setup? Mr. Pianshu, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, can you just repeat?
He says that what kind of vegetables can be grown around the year in urban farming setup?
Okay. So, see, if you are venturing into hydroponics, I will say the trick is to grow off-season crops, because if one should grow off-season crops in that. And the trick is this only. And as someone said, I don't remember exactly. Please don't go to Mandi. You have to have the markets ready before venturing into hydroponic setup. Can be built up just next day if you ask. But you have to have the markets ready before venturing. And don't try to specify a single crop for a whole year. Try to bring in some variety as well. Try to grow off-season crops, because they will fetch you good prices.
Thank you. So again, the next question is from Mr. Bharatendu. He says most of the leafy green greens would need cool temperature to grow. Which type of greenhouse technology would be ideal for commercial hydroponic without use of energy other than that of fan pad cooled systems?
So I guess since the Indian climatic conditions don't allow anyone to have naturally ventilated polyhouse feasible in hydroponics, one have to go for fan pad polyhouse systems. And if you want some energy conservations, you can probably set up a solar power plant to power your greenhouse. So that way you can conserve the energy.
Absolutely. So, Shamaji, there is a question for you. The person says that is the taste vegetables produced in hydroponic system is different than grown by conventional system. Which one is best? Dr. Sharma? प्रियांशु आप आंसर करेंगे इसको?
Yeah, sorry, didn't hear.
Shall I repeat?
Yeah.
It says the taste of vegetables produced in hydroponic system is different than grown by conventional system. Which one is best?
It all depends on the recipe. what you give to the plant, you will receive from the plant. In hydroponics, there are many research papers, many researchers and many scientists are trying to have a recipe wherein you can also even have your customized taste of cherry tomatoes as well, of different types of vegetables. So it's all nutrient composition which you give, which will derive ultimately the taste of the vegetable. So there is no specific set of taste that you can that you wish, but what you give to the plant, you will receive from it.
Okay, so Dr. Singh, how frequently, the person should change water in bucket hydroponic farming?
First of all, it depends on the climatic conditions and the management options that you are adopting in the production system.
Okay.
If you are really doing a very clean type of cultivation, then you can protract the time after changing the nutrients in supply or in pipeline supplies. Otherwise, it depends on crop to crop actually, because there are some crops where they are voracious feeder. There you have to replenish it again and again, but there are crops like broccoli, lettuce, or some minor leafy vegetables. Their requirement is very meager. Then you can always protract the length of the time, on part of the length of time of the replenishment of the nutrients or water even. But it depends on the condition and the crop and the season also.
Okay. And there is another question from the same gentleman. He says that what is the maximum shell life of vegetables which are grown in hydroponic water? I'm sorry, this is from Ms. Fatima Khalid.
So it's 1 to 2 days according to.
Sorry?
1 to 2 days.
1 or 2 days. That's the maximum shell life of vegetables. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And there are some people here who wants to, who want to set up their hydroponic farm. So some are from Himachal Pradesh, some are from Maharashtra. So how can they, what are the basic resources that they need in order to start a hydroponic farm?
Can I answer that?
Yes, please.
See, my farm is also in Himachal Pradesh, it's near Shimla.
Okay.
And since you mentioned Himachal Pradesh or any other place, as I said, the first you need to do a feasibility study on a particular piece of land. By feasibility, I don't mean only technical feasibility or a commercial feasibility. It has to be combined. As I said, we first need to ensure that which markets are we serving, who's the customer, who's the buyer, and whether it's feasible to serve that customer from that location or not. Or on the other end, are you going in for a retail marketing, your own branding? That's a totally different concept. But if you're going in for bulk selling in open market, it's not possible. Then you are wasting your time in hydroponics. And it is feasible. Himachal, in fact, since you mentioned Himachal is one of the ideal locations in North India, where the temperature is much favorable. The electricity cost is very low. It's one of the cheapest states in India. And hydroponics, as you know, is all about automation. So you need electricity 24/7. Why I chose Himachal, I'll tell you that it's because of two reasons. The place where my farms are, the maximum temperature is 27, 28 degrees, and there's no snow. Secondly, I pay the cheapest electricity in India. I used to pay 50 paise a unit 4 years back. Now I pay 1 rupee a unit, and I don't need a backup. Okay. Himachal is a surplus state, so I have 24/7 electricity available. So why I say this is these are important factors when you set up hydroponics. If you are going to set up hydroponics in a place where you're dependent on a backup power or a genset on a diesel, then again it's a big cost.
And what about the coastal areas? Is it viable for the coastal areas also? There are people from Bhubaneswar also asking the same question.
Hydroponics can be done in any place. We are doing hydroponics in UAE, outside of Sharjah, outside Dubai, and that's the most harshest temperatures. Israel.
Yeah.
So hydroponics is possible everywhere.
Okay, I hope it answers the question. So,
can I add something to that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, basically, I think that, if you want a successful business around your farm or whatever, it's very important to create a brand to your farm and get people to know what you're doing by creating that brand, even telling them that you're doing it here, how you're doing it, and showing them as well, giving them examples so they're actually buying. So that's how you develop the brand. Instead of going for wholesaling, as I said, we don't want to go to that's as as a hydroponic farmer, you're still a farmer, but if you sell to the wholesaler, it's like selling to a mandi. It's really like that. Until and unless you have a brand, you cannot build a business model. Or for a long-term success, you need that. You can start off with the model of saying, I'll start off with a wholesaler and then move to a brand, build your own thing around your own farm. And that's, you can do it in small cities, you can do it in large cities, it can be done anywhere. Matlab, it can be done in Punjab, Amritsar, cater to the demand. You know, build the farm as big as your demand is there, and then build a brand around it. That's how it works.
Yeah, thank you.
That's how it's gonna grow in the future. That's how it
Yes. Thank you. Priyanshu, I have a lot of questions for you. A lot of people wants to ask you. So, you mentioned that, a lot of people rely on YouTube and other channels to get some, information on hydroponics. So there are some people who actually work on hydroponic farms. So they want a hands-on knowledge of hydroponics. So where do they get the proper information?
So these hydroponics enthusiast people can read some credible information from, let's say, blogs, from write-ups, from even Quora. So, but just please go to YouTube, and especially the channels, because I have seen a lot of them, and many of it is very wrong information. So people should go for some credible sources, Medium and all, so they can find good research papers as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I would appreciate if you could leave some links on the chat window so that people can use those links and get the required information. So, and there is one technical question. I'm not sure if I understood it correctly. It says that as this is being the future of farming in India, do you feel this method needs to be included in QPs of ASCI for generating skilled, semi-skilled workforce in this technology/methods? Dr. Singh?
Certainly, yes. As I said in the beginning also, that this has to be included in the curricula. And I think the new education system, this we have emphasized, and this will come up, I think. And at the same time, we are also pushing up for the trainers training also. Because unless we have the teachers, those who have expertise in the hydroponics, for example, we started doing aeroponics 3 years back, and we didn't have any expertise in that. So we sent our staff outside, get the training, come back and deploy the knowledge and skill learned there and produce the seed material of potato in India. Can you imagine potato being produced in aeroponics is running on a very high sustainability in terms of profit? So we need the skilled people. I mean, when somebody was talking of the challenges, in addition to the engineering challenges, management options, I think a lot of phone call comes to us asking that where can I get good number of people, those who are skilled enough in this particular area so that they can run our enterprise on a successful business model. So therefore, the skilling is most important, and unless it comes into the curricular part, probably we won't be able to generate the adequate number of people. And I know this area, the area of the hydroponics or aeroponics, maybe day after tomorrow something else will come up, is going to increase and expand, and country has to capitalize, because when the Prime Minister says that by the time of 2025, 26, the export has to double, then high value crops has one edge at least to capitalize on this particular thing. However, we need to produce the skill, identify the crops, and find our fitness in terms of strength in global trade market for these commodities. One, and also for the local supply system as well.
Right.
Ms. Vibha, can I add to what Sir has just said?
Yes,
I was a part of a skill development course run under the ASCI, okay, and under the DDU Kaushal Kendra UGC. And there is a college in Mumbai which is actually having these skill development courses, okay, and this particular course was titled Greenhouse Management, and they had entire sections on hydroponics, and I was a part of the faculty out there. So I still know that there are skilled students who come out after taking proper internships and all. So yes, this thing I think has already started, but only thing is there is a lack of awareness amongst the regular crowd or regular people. So ASCI very much is working on these. In fact, we had even developed the curriculum along these lines for the entire 3-year course. So yes, it is happening.
It is happening. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Bhatia, and I think Mr. Jain, you mentioned about the rough. You had given the rough estimate about per unit cost of establishment. So there are some people who would like to know again. So what is the rough estimate about per unit cost of establishment of hydroponic unit in India? If you can just repeat that once again, they must have missed it.
Yeah, it's anywhere around 16 lakhs to 20 to 23 or 30 lakhs. And so below that, one cannot achieve a cost.
And what is the minimum space required?
5,000 square feet, 500 square meter.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll take one or two more questions. He says there is one participant, Nandini Joshi. She says how to calculate crop nutrient requirement in hydroponics. Dr. Sharma?
See, basically more.
Yeah.
So it is more or less preset. We don't have too many, as of now, we don't have too many crops that are grown in hydroponics. And more or less all the crops that are grown in hydroponics have a range of nutrient requirement, okay? You basically do not calculate every time. So it is there as a reference and you can use along those lines.
Thank you very much. And there is another question for you. How is the nutrition content comparison of vegetables grown in hydroponic versus soil-based?
If you ask me, I can give you a very qualitative kind of an answer, not quantitative, because what I tasted produce which is grown in hydroponics and which is grown in soil, there is a marked difference. Also, if you see in the what do you see, the aroma, like say for example, if you take a basil variety grown in hydroponics, a proper NFT system, and you compare the same variety of basil grown in soil, there is a marked difference in the aroma and the content. So I have just qualitatively seen the differences. Quantitatively, I have not done any kind of a quantitative estimation as such. But if qualitatively there is a difference, and if you can see and feel it, if it's an observable difference qualitatively, definitely quantitatively, when you give it for testing, it will be there. It will be there, surely.
Okay. And we have somebody joined from UAE. And Mr. Bhatia, the question is for you, since you mentioned UAE. So how do people in harsh, hot climates such as UAE, Africa, control optimum temperature in greenhouse?
Well, there are plenty of ways, technology-wise, fan and pad system being one of them. There are a variety of protective sheets available which reduce the temperature. And there are plenty of other ways to control temperature and bring down the temperature.
Okay, so, thank you very much. And Dr. Singh, there are a lot of students also, they want to know how they can study for hydroponics. And they want to know, are there any good books recommended by the government wherein they can find the proper information, as they are finding it difficult to get a proper institute or organization who can give them proper educate them properly.
Government does not recommend the textbooks.
Okay.
So you have to find out, I mean, which book is giving you, is serving a quench on knowledge of the hydroponics, aeroponics, these things. But I think there are some good places like TNAU, APAU, Andhra Pradesh Agriculture University, and at IARI Delhi, they have started taking courses on the hydroponics, not the solo courses, but they have integrated the hydroponics and this kind of system into the curricula of masters and PhD programs, because here the PhD is through course and credit together. But the TNAU has started, I was told, and PNU also. I mean, sometime back I was talking to the Vice Chancellor. He was saying that, yes, that there is a rising demand of the such kind of courses to be introduced at UG level. So about the books, I am not prepared to furnish the reply, but I think there are some universities who are imparting education, as I mentioned. But I think in future, more universities will come up on this.
Well, those who want the proper information, they can get in touch with Mr. Jain. Maybe he can connect you to the right people, and he can provide you the right links so that you can get proper information and you can educate yourself in this particular department. So I have still so many questions, but I'll end here. And what I'll do is I will be making a list of all the questions, and I'll be sharing with all the panelists to get their inputs. And then accordingly we will. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm interjecting. But I mean, those who are considering, those who have interest in the cost, actually, There are many places they are using solar panels
Yes.
to cut down the cost when they're running their greenhouses or the hydroponics in areas where the temperature rises. I mean, more than 38 degrees Celsius in the summer season, particularly. But if you can produce commodity in that temperature, I mean, so come April, May, June, July in Delhi and around Delhi, and if you can produce and supply the lettuce to Delhi market alone, this is much more remunerative, despite cooling also, than in the flood season.
Okay.
So this solar system, and when it was the cost factor was being discussed, I'd like to mention that the National Horticulture Board gives two kind of financial assistance in form of the subsidy. One for the general public, that is to the tune of 35% subsidy, but there is a ceiling of 65 lakhs, I think. But you will have to find out. And those who are located in the distant places like northeastern states, including Assam, there are 8 states. There, the subsidy level for such kind of enterprises or even the greenhouses is as high as 50%.
Okay.
So those who have interest in this particular enterprise, I think they should check with the National Horticulture Board's website so that they can avail the benefit which is offered by the central government in a centrally sponsored scheme. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Sharma, there is one person who's sending me a question again and again for you. So he says that regarding the plant nutrition, can those nutrients be supplied from the fish waste that is being grown along with? And also, what kinds of fish can be used for this?
This is aquaponics.
Okay, so you want to...
This is exactly on which the principle on which aquaponics works.
Okay. So thank you very much to all the speakers. Now I would like to request Mr. Ravi Varatkar for his closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Viva. And it was indeed a very good session. And on behalf of Agrovision and Agro Spectrum, we thank all the panelists, particularly Dr. A.K. Singh and Mr. Jain, Mr. Bhatia, Dr. Thadi, Mr. Jasmit, and Ms. Anisha Goel. My special thanks to you for being very precise. All of you today are very specific, precise, and that you also gave a lot of time for question answer. So I think that made a very holistic discussion. So you talked about all aspects of hydroponics, and through question answer we could, whatever queries our attendees had, we could also answer that. So this was one of the most informative session and very interactive session. So once again, thanks a lot for being with us today, and look forward to the continued interaction with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baratkar. So before we end, I have a little last announcement. So our next webinar is on food safety and standards. So the date is October 5th and it will start at around 3 o'clock. The details have been posted in the chat window. So we request all of you to register, those who are interested in it. And like I said before, we will be compiling all the questions and we'll be reverting with all the inputs from the speakers. So thank you once again, everyone.